It's the Halloween episode of Recovery This Week.
It's Recovery This Week. I'm Damon Frank,
And I'm Shauna McKenna Vick.
and it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, Shauna.
Happy Halloween. Oh my gosh, I just stopped at the drugstore to pick up candy. I was out doing errands and my husband said, don't forget to get candy because I forgot to get candy. Do you know how much Halloween candy is this year?
Yeah, it's like a mortgage on your house. If you have a
hmm
house to give Halloween, it's a mortgage on it. We
It's
have
an extra
several
mortgage payment.
bags. Yes, yeah. Do you get
hmm
trick-or-treaters there?
Every house is on 2 acres or an acre and a half, so it's quite far to walk between houses, but we still get trick-or-treaters. We just don't get
Nice.
them the way you might get them in a smaller neighborhood, but we get a few. But this year, normally I'm like junkie, like give out tons, give out tons. This year we'll be like, well, here's a
Yeah.
few pieces of candy, and then when it gets later, I'll give out lots. But oh my gosh, I can't get over how much the best buy was at my drugstore, 2-for-1 bags of
Ooh.
the like 30 pieces, the smaller pieces. So once you add up the bags to make a big bag, you you're still paying less than the
Well, I have
$20
to tell
for
you,
the bag.
keeping with the alcoholic theme, I've decided to give out mini vodka bottles and marijuana
Oh,
chews, CBD
great
chews.
idea.
So yeah,
Great idea.
I
Well,
thought that would be good this year.
I thought I'd make chocolate chip cookies and give those out, but
No,
because
you
they
can't
would
do
be,
that.
but you're not, I know, but you can't give out vodka and gummies either.
Unless they're your neighbors and you know them very, very well, that's creep factor. You can't do the cookies, you can't do the bread, you can't do any of the baked goods. Not gonna, I used
I
to get
know
Rice
that, but you
Krispie
can't.
treats.
Oh,
Remember
yeah, that
that?
would be good.
That
Yeah,
was good.
yeah.
That was good.
Caramel apples.
My first addiction, sugar.
Yeah,
Ah,
same
well,
with me.
Halloween, Shauna. A lot going on this week. The world is kind of crazy. We got an election next week. There's all this different stuff going on in the world. And, people are wondering, hey, how do I stay sober in Halloween? A lot of people also are struggling with other things besides just staying sober. Could be mental health issues, things like that. So we thought we'd maybe
Right,
chat
but
about
I
that
mean,
today.
let's talk about sober and Halloween and the
Yeah.
election coming and, just general unrest. It feels like a lot. It just feels like a lot is going on right now. And it's probably because it's the election and people are very polarized on their viewpoints, unfortunately. Um, you know, and I actually think more people are drinking more. And
Yes.
so when it comes to how do I stay sober on Halloween, I think we also have to address, and what if you get drunk on Halloween and you got drunk 2 days ago and you got drunk 3 days before that and you got drunk 3 days before that? You know, how do you know when to say when? Or maybe because Halloween's coming up and you're like, I'm so looking forward to getting hammered, and then you wake up with the shame and the guilt on November the
Hmm.
1st.
Hmm.
How do you get to the point where you're like, wait a second, I want to take a look at my drinking? Or maybe I don't want to take a look at my drinking. Or people have mentioned to me that I might want to take a look at my drinking. It's tough. It's real tough. It
Well,
is a tough
it
situation to
is.
be in.
Well, you know why I think Halloween is a big drinking holiday, personally, because what you're talking about is this rise of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things that's interesting is because, I never did this in my past year sober, but now
Yeah.
that, we're doing the show and I've got Recovered Life TV, I'm looking at all the headlines that come out that have
Mm-hmm.
addiction and sobriety in them and alcoholism in them,
Mm-hmm.
drug addiction. And you know what's interesting is there's this huge correlation between anxiety and alcoholism. I know there was with me, right? But I think this is a big time because this really is the kickoff to the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
And
It is. You're
people are,
exactly right.
yeah. And this year, especially with, not everybody is doing great financially this year. People are still
Mm-hmm.
recovering from COVID and there's been a lot of layoffs. And this
Well,
is
and
when a lot
inflation,
of,
I mean,
yeah, come
we
on.
started out with how much a freaking bag of candy costs.
Exactly. And it's like I think this is a lot of times when people start to see that they have a drinking problem, or if you're in
hmm
recovery like us, you have to kind of double down. Like, honestly, it's cold here in LA, which is a rarity.
Yeah.
It's like seeing Bigfoot, but I didn't really want to go to a meeting last night. I wanted to just kind of stay in and not do it. But I went because, it is really the kickoff to the holidays, and I'm going to be
Hmm.
out and about. And not that I'm worried about it, but I like to have that buffer when I'm out around people that are drinking or in situations that are
Sure. You want to
uncomfortable.
be spiritually fit. You want to be
Yeah,
working your program. You want to be engaged. You want to be engaged in your recovery as opposed to being on the sidelines or just being an onlooker to recovery, right? So you want to,
absolutely.
because it's not just to prepare for the holidays. You want to have a full life, and being engaged in our own recovery is how we create that life worth living. What I'm seeing too, Damon, and one of the challenges is mental health. So let's just take someone who may be a moderate drinker or not a drinker or doesn't use substances. And they're really struggling, like you said, with the anxiety, with depression, with all this stuff, how that can really play into using substances then to self-medicate, and then the substance use takes off. Well, what if people knew? Did you know there's plenty of treatment centers that have that are residential treatment for mental health? I mean, we
Mm,
talk about going to rehab a lot for alcohol,
yeah,
drugs,
yeah.
substances. Do you know they have treatment centers that are primary mental health that you can go
No,
and do a
yes.
residential stay?
I learned that in the last couple of years, by interviewing a lot of the people who work at those. And it is, and I think it's so great because for two reasons, Shauna, and I'd love your opinion on this because
Sure.
one of the things is that rarely do you see now, once you educate yourself about what is mental health, like, and
Hmm.
how does that intersect with addiction, rarely do you see people now in meetings when I go out, not that I'm a doctor or, giving diagnosis, but
Right.
you could see, wow, this is a mental health issue that's
Hmm.
coupled with an addiction issue. That it doesn't mean that the addiction issue is any less or any
Right.
less
Right.
important, but it's not the only thing. And I also think, and I'm just going to just throw a bomb in here, I also think that that is one of the reasons why traditional 12-step groups sometimes get a bad rap of like, well, it didn't work for me. It actually worked on the addiction side,
On the
but the
addiction side,
mental
yeah.
health side was so bad or got to a place that was so unmanageable for the person that it made them come back to the alcohol and drug
The
addiction.
right. Well, now, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says that we do go to see doctors for other issues, right? So if someone says AA didn't work for them, they might have missed that part too, that, it's okay to see doctors, therapists, psychiatrists for other issues too. I mean, yes, AA and the 12-step program really works on the spiritual nature of the disease. And I will tell you that it's it's the 12 steps. I am a big believer in it because I hit a very low rock bottom, and it was the message, and it is the program that got me sober and keeps me
Mhm.
sober. But I have a therapist, I have a psychiatrist, I see a marriage therapist because we
Yeah.
like to keep our marriage healthy. I'm actually going to engage a new type of therapist for somatic experiencing. We can talk about that because I feel a little disconnected from my emotions. I must need to do
Yeah.
some more work. So it breaks my heart that people might have left AA because they were still struggling or had co-occurring diagnoses. And most residential treatment centers do take in co-occurring, and they recognize the link between mental health and substance use. And, is it the chicken or the egg, right? I think that's what your point is. And so what I'm saying too is, if you're just struggling with mental health, you know, we meet people in my profession of, interventionists, case managers, addiction professionals. We can help get you treatment for your mental health so it doesn't explode into a substance use and you're co-occurring. There are residential treatment centers for mental health, for trauma. A lot of people suffer from
Yeah.
complex trauma. And so there is help out there, and there's practices and IOPs. We have a new trauma IOP that opened up here in Raleigh And I mean, we have lots of different IOPs, but there is help for pure mental health stuff that's not necessarily co-occurring with addiction, but could lead to addiction. But there's a lot of addiction that's co-occurring with mental health.
Absolutely. It's interesting because, one of some of the more popular episodes that we've done on the show, like looking back about a year and a half
Uh-huh.
ago, we did one on bipolar disorder. And it was interesting. We had a therapist on talking about bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And that's very, very well searched. And, it's interesting because I had somebody in a 12-step program that I knew who was sober for several decades and ended up going out because of bipolar disorder, right? I know people who've gone out because of
Because they either
anxiety.
they stopped taking their medicine. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people who
Or
stopped
wasn't.
taking their medicine because
Yeah.
they're feeling good. Then the mental health disorder, the bipolar disorder, kicks up and they start using again. Yes,
Well,
very.
this person wasn't even diagnosed with it, but had had
Oh,
all of these things that had gone on, and this is one of the things that I've been saying a lot, and I kind of got a bad rap for this, honestly, and I get a lot of hate
really?
from this. I've got a lot of hate from
Can't believe you
from
ever get a
friends.
bad rap, Damon.
Oh, I do. I always get a bad rap on stuff. But one of the things is that I made a statement that, 12-step groups isn't really effective. I was told about that there was effective for everything. And I'm somebody who suffered from a major, anxiety all through my recovery, used the 12 steps. It did help with the first part of it, but ultimately it was helps outside of the room that helped me really get a grasp of that anxiety disorder and really
Mm-hmm.
get it to a place in my life where it was manageable. And then I would say even kind of disappeared in some areas of my life, right?
Right.
But I think there's a lot of resistance. And looking back, I think my resistance was, man, I don't want to be a triple winner here. I'm already an alcoholic. I already have to go to meetings.
Yeah.
And I saw other people's lives getting better in recovery, and mine it was,
Right.
Shauna, it was getting better. But this reoccurring theme of this anxiety disorder kept coming up every couple months, then every month, and every
Mm-hmm.
week, right? And not taking action on that, I think was a huge mistake for me. I had a lot of misery and suffering when I really didn't need to.
No. You got to take action on it. You got to do what you have to do. I mean, like I said, I listed out my care team, right? Because I want to be mentally healthy,
Yeah,
spiritually healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy. Used to have a personal trainer. Like we need to see all the people that can help us and we need to take the action. That's the other thing is I was talking to someone today and she said she's been in talk therapy. She for the last 2 years and she has had some trauma from a relationship. And I said, have you done any like trauma work using any trauma modalities? Has she sent you out to see a trauma therapist to like deal with it? She said, no. I said, so you've just been doing, and I'm not a clinician, but in my mind, I'm like, well, what action are you taking?
yeah, yeah.
What action are you
Well,
taking? We still have to take some action, right? Like
it's interesting
whether it's
because
breath work or, whatever, we do have to take some action. Things just don't come to us by osmosis or whatever.
no, I mean, but I'm calling this the big T, and it's the trauma, which is the big. If we're going to really talk about alcoholism, like in the last, 90 years, let's just say since the 12 steps really kind of took off,
Yes.
it is really trauma is the big thing that they've uncovered. But it's interesting because like I did a couple episodes back, I had a guy who had written a book on on trauma,
Mm-hmm.
Hazelton guy,
Right. Yeah.
very, very tight in. And it was interesting because he was he was a huge believer in getting outside help, a huge believer.
Yeah.
And he talked about his experience in doing it, but he also said resolving trauma isn't necessarily going to, even though it's linked to addiction, isn't there's no study that says that resolving the trauma is necessarily going to help your alcoholism and addiction. That these are two separate, and that people get this confused. They think, well, if I can get all the mental health stuff done, right? If I can get a grasp on that,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's medication, treatment, or everything, if I could do that, then all of a sudden I'm no longer an alcoholic. I'm no longer a drug addict. I no longer have to work a program or, you know, or do anything at all. And he said this is the big lie that people are being told. It's not that it's not tied together. It's not that there's not a correlation. It's not the holy grail though, as
Well,
far
there
as
could be even
recovery.
causation, right? Like, no, it's not the
Yes.
Holy Grail, but that's what I was saying. We have to work on all these different areas all the time. Just because you're exercising doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. You have to exercise and diet, right?
Yeah.
So you have to work on trauma, whether it's capital T trauma or, lowercase t trauma. We go through little mini traumas, and trauma's a buzzword. Everybody says they've got trauma, of some sort. And there are, I mean, we do, we've been exposed. In fact, everybody's got some trauma from COVID. There you go. Right. But there's lowercase t's and then there's uppercase t's, violence and, whatever. But you can't work on just your alcoholism and not treat that. There might be correlation, there might be causation, and you got to do both. But I'm with you. I don't think just resolving trauma, and you're magically not an alcoholic anymore or suffer from substance use disorder. I think I don't think it's binary like that.
Well, it's interesting because I think, speaking on this holiday theme, mental health is scary. It's scary for people. Like, I don't care if you're in addiction recovery or not. It freaks people out. I still think that there's a stigma around it.
Stigma, huge stigma. Yeah.
And I would say even more, but what's interesting now that I see is that addiction in mental health is kind of coming together. It used to be, I know when I first got sober, those were two separate conversations. Now I'm seeing them as one conversation of addiction being a mental health disorder, as opposed to them being some separate entity, right? And I think that is good because we're looking at the whole person. And and I know there's a lot of people out there. I know there's a lot of people who listen to this that struggle and they're just freaked out to take any kind of action at all. I mean, what do you say to those people, Shauna, that are freaked? Because I was one of those people. I was like freaked. I was like, man, like I got my hands full just with this recovery thing.
Right. Well,
I don't even want to know.
If you want to feel better, you got to take some action. So, find someone you can talk to. Sometimes doctors won't help, but addiction professionals can help. We can make referrals if they contact you or I. But just say, I'm really struggling with my mental health. And Google mental health IOP for the area you live in, and you'll find some. There are resources out there. That's an intensive outpatient program. You're still living at home, you're going to work, and then 9 hours a week you're going and doing group therapy and one-on-one therapy, and that can really help. But there are lots of resources out there, and I don't know about you, Damon, but I'm going to have to go back to the store and get more candy now because
Me too.
We're coming up on time. I hate to cut you short today, but I think I'm going to have to get more candy.
I'm going to Costco.
What a great idea. I should have done that this week.
Real quick,
but we had lots. We have to pick up. Where we left off on a couple of things, Damon, for next week. I think it'd be good to dive further into this start of holiday season and the messages that we tell ourselves, because I never thought of Halloween as starting the holiday season, but tomorrow's November. So people are already like, well, it's Thanksgiving and then it's Christmas, and we lump them all together. So I want to talk about that. And then also, now is the right time to get help coming up. I think that's why I'm so busy. I have so many clients. People either want to get better before Christmas, or they don't want their family around for Christmas, so they're calling an interventionist, or it's just come to such a head because of the holiday season starting and the election and everything. So, I'd like to pick this one up again and talk a little more next week about this.
And real quick, before we leave here, I want to end this episode because it is the Halloween and Halloween weekend.
Boo.
Your top 2 or 3 tips about staying sober during Halloween. If people are out there that are worried, this might be their first Halloween sober, or they've been sober for a while and they're a little freaked out. What are your top tips for people for staying sober in Halloween?
Well, I will tell you, my first one is it's okay to miss a Halloween party if you're early in recovery. It is okay to say, you know what, I think I'm going to skip this one. That would be one tip. The other is lean into your program. I bet there's sober parties going on. We have to change a lot. If you're expecting to go to the same Halloween blowout where everybody is absolutely loaded by 8:30 or 9 p.m., probably not a good idea. But if you want to go, have an exit plan. Always,
Yeah, have an exit
always have
plan.
an exit
Yeah.
plan, right?
Yeah.
Don't park your car in the driveway. Park your car down the street so that you can always get out and no one parks behind you. Always have an exit plan. And then guess what, Damon? I've been telling a couple sponsors this. You can actually leave parties without telling people you're leaving. It's called the Irish exit. And you can just leave and not have to go around and say goodbye to everybody when they'll say, oh, no,
Yeah.
stay. We want you to
Yeah.
stay. We want you to stay. Oh, no, stay. Have a drink, whatever. You can actually just quietly leave, say goodbye to the host and say, I'm just going to take off and not draw too much attention to it. So those would be my tips. Exit plan, leave when you want, or don't go.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw this one into close too, is that, plan the next meeting that you're going to go to if you're in 12 step, and do a bumper call. Call somebody before you come in, and then plan to call somebody after. So you
Great
have something
idea.
to look forward to. You've already kind of structured how that's going to go. That you're going to be accountable when you leave, and I always found that to be a really good thing, because it keeps you kind of on track about what you want to do. But my final thing is relax and have a little fun. No one got sober so they could have a miserable friggin' life. So relax, enjoy your sobriety, and have a good time.
And eat some candy. All right.
Eat some candy.
Thanks,
Have a
Damon.
good one,
See
guys.
ya.
Happy
Bye.
Halloween. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you like this episode, think about supporting us by becoming a Recovered Life Plus member. At Recovered Life TV, we're not just delivering premium recovery resources, we're empowering you with the knowledge and tools that make a real difference in the quality of your recovery. By subscribing, you gain access to ad-free content, expert insights, exclusive video and audio segments, special projects, plus so much more, all while supporting our mission to spread the recovery message far and wide. Whether you're seeking to deepen your understanding or stay updated on the latest addiction and mental health recovery trends, Recovered Life Plus is for you. Subscribe now and start living your best recovered life. Just go to recoveredlife.tv and become a Plus member today.